got to ask you about the youth, man, because I was talking to one of my homies, and we was looking at it on TV, like we was seeing it and looking at these rallies, these protests with the youth, and it's overwhelmingly a lot of white students.
Yes.
And so that just it dawns on me. It's like, okay, like why? We in Nashville, I understand, we're a super majority white city. But a lot of times, I would say probably often of the times, when a lot of things that typically black people are more harmed or affected by, especially black youth, they're not seen in these rallies and protests. And so it's all these white kids that may not ever be affected in the same way at all. But they want to be allies. But optically, I always look at that and be like,
well,
what are your thoughts on that?
No, you're getting at a point, but I will say just one issue that Nashville is, depending on how you capture the data, is trending majority minority. Nashville might be anywhere, depending on how you count the census, between 42 and 47% non-white.
Okay.
And the school system, to your point, is I think
60-70% black, African American, and then definitely majority people of color.
So
public schools.
So not sure how many, but there's definitely majority people of color.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That's been an interesting debate that I think issue that I'm not entirely sure I know the answer to. And it goes back to even the Black Lives Matter protest, as you may remember. And from my perspective, and I can't point to any research about it, but from my perspective, I think what happens is that the Covenant shooting is a little bit different, and the convergence on the state capitol is a little bit different because, as a kid from, for example, White's Creek gonna come out all the way out here for a 1 hour protest. And they have rides and they have rides or buses. But I think that what happens oftentimes, what's been happening is that there may be an issue that may affect African Americans disproportionately, and then there's an initial surge of African Americans, and then as the issue prolongs itself, more whites and more allies kind of flood into that particular spaces. And as I see it, the grassroots organizations, particularly blacks that are at the forefront of it, must be very intentional about building out indigenous networks in the black community because of that dynamic, and it has to be constant. Otherwise, that story is going to reemerge itself. I think that the progressive community has to, and I say progressive or social justice, has to still do a better job of trying to understand black folks. I don't think I think there needs to be a better commitment from that. There has to be a lot of internal conversations and closed door conversations about how to organize working class black folks, and what does even being the black working class mean? And so to go back to your issue of gun violence as an example, I'm gonna maybe get in trouble for saying this, but one of our kids died in the streets. Was there a state, were there people across the state rally behind that? We buried our community, whether it be street level violence, police violence, trauma.
It's different energy.
Different energy. And Ella Baker made this point. She said until the killing of a black mother's son or daughter is as important as the killing of a white woman's son or daughter. We believe in freedom shall not rest. And so I think there's a different level of energy when it comes to our people who are dying and getting killed, and we just don't value the life of young black folks that way. So.